Business process management is one of the most fundamental and foundational aspects of a digital transformation or ERP implementation. But what exactly is business process management and how does it tie into your initiative? That's what I want to talk about here today. My name is Eric Kimberling. I'm the CEO of Third Stage Consulting. We're an independent consulting firm that helps clients throughout the world reach their third stage of digital transformation success. And one of the key work streams that we oftentimes help our clients with is business process management. We help clients define what their current state is, what their future state is, what the process improvements are, and perhaps most importantly, how do those process improvements factor into their overall digital transformation or ERP software implementation. So what I want to do today is talk about a business process management framework. And in fact, I'm going to show you a slide right here in front of you that highlights and summarizes some of that business process management framework. And I'm going to dive into that in more detail and describe what some of these different components of business process management are and how this can factor into your overall digital transformation. Before we dive too far into today's content, I want to share a little bit of information about Third Stage Consulting and who we are. Third Stage Consulting Group is an independent technology agnostic provider of consulting services to help clients through their digital transformations. We help with digital strategy and software selection, as well as implementation planning. And during implementation, we provide services related to program management, organizational change, business process improvement, as well as enterprise architecture. These are just some of the services we provide. We have offices in North America, as well as Europe and Asia Pacific. So if you'd like to learn more, I encourage you to check out our resource center, which includes a number of resources that will help you through your digital transformation, and you can access that for free using the QR code here or the links below. You can also reach out to me directly if you'd like to discuss your digital transformation and brainstorm ideas on how to improve where you're headed on your journey. Now let's jump back into today's content. To start, it helps to understand what exactly business process management is. And I'm going to dive into a lot of different details here throughout this video, but first I want to show you a summary of a business process management framework that we use here at Third Stage Consulting. And on the screen in front of you, you will see a methodology and framework that we use here at Third Stage Consulting. And as you peruse this, and as I'm talking through the rest of this video, you'll see that there's several different components of business process management. There's the current state, there's the future state, there's the process improvements, there's the key performance indicators that tie back to your business processes. There's also the change impacts and the organizational change strategy that enables some of those process improvements. And then there's also the technology blueprint or the technology requirements that are necessary as part of the technical design of the software that should be influenced by or informed by the business process management workstream. So as I go through today's video, I'm going to be referring back to this framework, and I'm going to dive into different parts of this framework to describe what the different subcomponents of business process management are and how it can and should fit into your overall digital transformation or ERP software implementation. Now, generally speaking, when we're going through the business process management workstream, the first thing we want to do is define the current state business processes. Another way to think of this is our as-is business processes. How do things work today? And oftentimes organizations tend to want to skip over this because they're not too concerned about their current state because they know they want to change it. But it's very important to start with your current state for two reasons. One is because that's what your people understand. That's your people's world within the organization that they understand it today. So employees understand the current state. The second reason why starting with the current state is so important is we can't define what the business process improvements are and prioritize those improvements without first understanding how things work today. And I'll throw in a third reason why starting with your current state is so important, and that is because in order to understand what the change impacts to the organization are going to be, you need to start with that current state to understand that. So understanding the current state, defining and documenting the current state is something that shouldn't take a huge amount of time, but it is something you want to use as a starting point in your business process management efforts. And one of the key things to do while you're defining your current state is to also define what your pain points are. What are those opportunities for improvement? And just as importantly, what are the things you're doing well that you want to make sure you preserve in your future state business processes? Once the project team has defined the current state, now you shift gears and start defining what the future state is going to be. And this is where you take some of those pain points and opportunities for improvement and you start to redefine what that future state should look like. It's also an opportunity for you to look at your business processes strategically to figure out, are there ways that we could consolidate or standardize our business processes to ensure that our organization has standard and consistent processes across the organization? So for example, a lot of organizations grow by acquiring other companies. And as they acquire other companies, they find that each of the companies they acquire do things differently. They have different ways of operating, different business processes. And so a business process management exercise can be a good way to say, let's figure out the common way that we want to operate as a company so that we can start acting like one company. So those are just a few of the things you want to do, is to focus on addressing pain points in your current state, as well as looking at strategic future state opportunities for improvement as well. This is also an opportunity for you to start defining what it is you want technology to do to help you make your business better. So when organizations define their future state business processes, that typically creates a set of business requirements that can be used to assess and evaluate different technology options that they have to deploy within their organizations. Now that we've defined current state and future state business processes, now we can create a library of potential business process improvements and start to define how it is we want to change those processes. And just as importantly, it also allows us to start to prioritize how we're going to change the processes and in what sequence we're going to change the processes. It's very rare that an organization is able to roll out all the process changes that they want all at once. Even if they put new technology in place, typically they need to prioritize those business process improvements and start to roll them out incrementally. And also, there's a number of business process improvements that can be enabled without necessarily putting new technology in place. So if you're doing business process management as part of a technology initiative, it may be that while you're working on technology in the background or in parallel, you're also rolling out new business process changes and operational and procedural changes just to help your organization and the people in your organization get more acquainted with the changes and get used to the changes before the new technology gets rolled out. So defining the sequence and your overall strategy for how you're going to roll out business process improvements is one of the most important aspects of the business process management workstream. When business process improvement and business process management is done well and done comprehensively, it typically focuses on defining what organizational change impacts there are as a result. And to simplify and to summarize what organizational change impacts are, I would say that change impacts are defining how different people and different work groups within the organization, how their jobs are going to change as a result of that future state that we've defined. So in other words, what is the gap between current state and future state broken down by individuals and work groups within the organization? And this is really important because later on in a process improvement and a technology change initiative, we need to be very clear and very communicative with the project team and with the employees throughout the organization on how their jobs are going to change and what the changes mean to them. And while yes, they need to understand the big picture of how the processes are changing and how the organization is changing, what people really care about is how their jobs are changing and how their roles are going to change. So the change impact assessment is a really important part of business process management that oftentimes gets overlooked. In fact, in most cases, it does get overlooked because people are myopically focused typically on process improvement and defining what the processes are, not necessarily how those new processes affect people. So it's very important that you define those change impacts so that you're not only defining new future state business processes, but you're also defining how those future state business processes will affect your people and your employees within your organization. There are two schools of thought as it relates to deploying new technologies and new processes within new technologies. One school of thought is that you just deploy the technology and the technology dictates or defines for you how your business processes will work. The other school of thought is you define your business processes first and then allow the technology to fit into those defined future state business processes. And generally speaking, most transformations and ERP implementations that we're involved with, you end up with a hybrid of both. You have some business processes that perhaps are less important to the organization, they're not competitive differentiators, and you're okay with whatever functionality you do or don't have in a new system, in which case you're more likely to defer to how the software works in those business process examples. There's other business processes within your organization that are super critical and super competitive advantage focused areas of your business, and you need the business process to drive the technology in those cases. So it's really important as you're going through your process improvement efforts to understand the difference between the two and categorize your process improvements in both categories so that you know that there's certain business processes that you're going to enable or allow the software to define how things work, but there's other business processes where you need the processes to drive the technology rather than the other way around. But regardless of which approach you take, even if it is a hybrid, you ultimately want to define what the technology requirements are because you want the technology to support your future state business processes the way you want your processes to look, not just to assume the new technology will solve all your questions and answer all your questions for you. Today's enterprise technologies are so flexible and can do so many different things that if you don't have a clear technical blueprint that's based on business processes, then you're going to spend a lot of time during the implementation trying to make decisions around what it is you want to be when you grow up, and that's going to lead you to a lot of budgetary overruns. It's going to take you longer to implement new technology than you thought, and it's going to create a lot of chaos within the organization. So the more you can spend time up front defining the business processes and what the technical blueprint is as a result of those business processes, the better off you're going to be during your digital transformation efforts. Now, the final component of business process management that I'll talk about here today is key performance indicators. In other words, what metrics tie to the business processes that we've defined. If we've defined a future state that involves improved business processes and new technologies to make our processes better, what is our performance today and what do we expect our performance to be in the future? That's going to give us a good ROI analysis to understand whatever investments we make in the change, whether or not we're getting a payoff from that investment. It'll answer that question. It'll also hold us accountable as a team to make sure that whatever change initiative we're going through, that we actually are delivering real results to the organization rather than just implementing new technologies or changing processes just for change's sake. We're doing the change because presumably we want some sort of measurable impact and measurable positive result to the business. And the only way we'll get that measurable positive result to the business is if we establish key performance indicators for the new business processes that we've defined. So I hope this has provided some good guidance on what business process management is and how it might tie to your technology initiative. For more information and best practices for digital transformations, I encourage you to download our 2024 Digital Transformation Report. It's a report we publish each year that contains a number of lessons learned, metrics and benchmarks, as well as independent software reviews and rankings as it relates to enterprise technologies. You can download that paper by scanning the QR code in front of you or by going to the links in the description field below. So I hope you found this information useful and hope you have a great day. And I'll throw in a third bonus reason why, no, I totally lost my train of thought. And right in front of you, on the screen in front of you, you can see once an organization has spent some time defining their current, once an organization has started to, wow, this is not going well. Right in front of you, you will see right in front of you.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'll also add a third bonus reason why you want to start with your current state, and that is, now I can't remember what it is now that I got the wording right.